Hi, I'm Kevin Knopp, and I have been a professional piano tuner in central Wisconsin for about 38 years. Prior to that, I rebuilt grands in my father's workshop. My father was a tuner. I've been a jazz drummer since I was about 15, playing in my father's New Orleans jazz band. And I'm also a visual artist. I have taught art on every level, most recently at UW La Crosse. Right now I'm transitioning from being full-time piano tuner into tuning pianos 2 days a week and trying to develop my art career a little bit more than I've had time for. When I was kind of just starting to tune a little bit, and my father was a very active tuner, and my father tuned for Heid, and because we worked together, we were like the perfect tuners for music festivals. And when back in the day they were huge, I mean, they would sometimes have 20 sites and all acoustic pianos. This was before clavinovas. Heids would bring a semi-truck and unload all these acoustic pianos, and they'd have a big sale when the festival was done. And this was when the late great Gerald Kniffel was a vocal music teacher at Opaka. He decided to have it in the old middle school, which was 3 floors, no elevator, and he hired the weightlifting crew to move all these pianos up in the 2nd and 3rd floor of the middle school. Of course, my dad and I tuned them all week long, and then, Wisconsin, 23 inches of snow and a major blizzard, and the whole thing got canceled, and they all had to be moved back down again. So that was an early Heid story. And currently I'm working with Heids in Stevens Point. Mitchell's had the Yamaha franchise earlier. Heids took it over. Mike Mitchell, Ted Mitchell's brother, who I've known the Mitchells ever since I was a teenager. He had back surgery about 1.5 years ago and was unable to continue his career. So I've been doing a lot of work in Stevens Point at the store, as well as doing the floor tuning there. Making music, it's part of my being. I grew up in a family of musicians. My grandfather was a barn dance fiddler in the Manawa area. He was mainly a farmer. My father studied piano as a young boy and was the first member of our family to go to college at Milwaukee State Teachers College. It was during the Depression. No financial aid, so my grandfather was only able to save up enough money for 1 year of tuition. But he was a musician his whole life, and I grew up listening to Louis Armstrong, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, jazz greats, and grew up with pianos because my father was a piano tuner and taught piano. When I was growing up, I kind of got recruited to play drums, and my dad loved New Orleans jazz. So every Wednesday night when I was growing up, he had an open invitation for all of his jazz musician friends to come by. Sometimes brought a 6-pack of beer, sometimes brought whatever. We played New Orleans chestnuts from 7 o'clock to 10:30 roughly, and there were some great musicians. Jimmy Clark was in the Army band in World War II and hung around Paris after the war and played with Django Reinhardt. Gene Schennebeck played trombone his whole life and played with the Dorsey brothers. Jimmy McGlynn played saxophone with Benny Goodman's big band. I mean, these were all people that would come into my dad's workshop and played music. So I started playing played my first gig when I was 15 and a half, and still play. I play with a jazz quartet and a band that does great songwriters, another quartet. It's always been the musicians I've performed with, and I've been blessed by playing with really great musicians. Living in New York, I used to hear the Philharmonic regularly. I went to art school in New York City and lived there for 3 years. Jazz greats, heard Miles Davis in Milwaukee, Jimmy Rainey, Zoot Sims, Ron Carter, Karen Allison. All these great performers are truly inspiring for me. I think practice is really important, and I as a drummer, I try and spend quite a bit of time every week working on my technique. But for me, the magic of music is escaping the everyday sense of time structure and creating your own sense of time structure. I'm a drummer, so meter is like numero uno, but I absolutely love that feeling of losing yourself. For me, music is not thinking, it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue with all the other performers. And once you start playing, you are swept away by that magic of meter. And for me, it's just a thing that when I don't do it, I get a little crazy. And it has affected my art in a very direct way, or I should say that my life as an artist and my life as a musician, and even my life as a piano tuner, because piano tuning is a bit of I consider it a performance. You don't get hired to put a note at a certain pitch. You get hired for an hour and 20 minutes of very intense focus on putting Pythagorean mathematical order on the frequency of those strings. Music is very similar, and when I'm in the studio working as an artist, it's losing oneself and not thinking too much, but just being in the moment is the thing that relates all three of those professional activities of mine together. Music is just, I think it's one of the most important aspects of human activity. It has a way of bringing people and cultures together. It's a way of escaping from the mundanity of our life and really elevating our time here on earth in a way that it's unlike so many other activities. I mean, but it's akin to athletics, it's akin to acting, it's akin to art. They're just some of the great pursuits that make us truly human.